Welcome to The Explainer. Let's just jump right in, shall we? Today, we're looking at what is arguably one of the most anticipated cinematic events in modern Indian history, director Nitesh Tiwari's upcoming 2026 epic, Ramayana.
ये राम के युग का आरंभ है।
But we aren't just going to marvel at the sheer scale of the film today. Oh no, we are going to examine how this production is completely dismantling that traditional, cartoonish villain trope that we are all so used to seeing. Specifically, we're going to explore how superstar Yash's portrayal of Ravana transforms a static, mythological antagonist into a deeply complex psychological force, complete with genuine tragic grandeur. So, can a demon king actually be too handsome? I know, it sounds like a completely wild question for a mythological epic, but it immediately hooks us into a fascinating viral controversy that challenged everyone's preconceptions right out of the gate. When Yash, the insanely popular star of the KGF franchise, was cast as the Demon King of Lanka, it sparked a massive conversation about what a mythological villain is actually supposed to look like. Spiritual leader Sadhguru really hit the nail on the head when reacting to this casting news. He basically asked, "I don't know how Yash became Ravana. A villain always means he has a blunt nose and a huge stature. Yash is a handsome man." And this perfectly captures the historical caricature that audiences have grown completely accustomed to. For decades, especially since those classic television adaptations back in the 1980s, we've been conditioned to expect a laughing villain. You know the type, a flat, physically imposing stereotype with a booming voice and a terrifying face. But this new production, it's actively fighting that expectation. Section 1, a monumental cinematic epic. Now, to understand why the creators can even afford to take such a massive creative risk, just look at the sheer canvas director Nitesh Tiwari is working with here. We are talking about an absolutely staggering estimated budget of 4,000 crore rupees. That's roughly 500 million US dollars. It's got a combined runtime of about 6 hours split across 2 parts, hitting theaters on Diwali 2026 and 2027. Oh, and the musical score? That's being handled by the legendary A.R. Rahman alongside Hollywood titan Hans Zimmer. This massive scale and sheer runtime give the filmmakers the narrative breathing room they desperately need. You don't spend this kind of time and money just to have a two-dimensional bad guy, right? This scale is exactly what allows them to properly deconstruct a demon king. Section 2, the handsome demon controversy. So how exactly did the creative team defend their choice against all this casting backlash? Well, producer Namit Multitroha responded directly, explaining that they were looking for a superstar-level talent because they needed to convey intelligence, pride, and deep complexity. Instead of relying on a flat, physical stereotype just to scare the audience, they wanted a truly magnetic presence. The charisma of the actor is actually central to the character's power here. It's all about showing the many shades of the man, establishing a formidable presence through sheer aura rather than just relying on a blunt nose or huge stature. Section 3, rethinking the stereotype. And you can totally see how this highly psychological interpretation is already playing out on set. Ranbir Kapoor, who is playing Lord Rama, pointed out at San Diego Comic-Con that Yash completely avoids that traditional caricature. Instead, he brings this immense swag, an undeniable aura, and absolute psychological honesty to the role. This brilliantly illustrates the massive paradigm shift we are talking about. We are finally moving away from a static antagonist who just sits in a throne room laughing evilly, and shifting toward a charismatic, dynamic force that practically demands your attention. Section 4, the self-made king. This brings us right to the philosophical core of our explainer. Yash himself pointed out this absolutely fascinating duality between the two legendary figures. You obviously need good and evil to tell a compelling story, but just look at the contrast here. Rama is born a king, he loses absolutely everything to exile, and then has to regain his power through righteous choices and behavior. But Ravana starts with absolutely nothing. He is the ultimate underdog who builds unimaginable absolute power, but along the way, he completely loses himself to it. It's this incredibly tragic arc of a self-made king who is ultimately consumed by his own burning ambition. To really flesh this out, director Nitesh Tiwari and Yash are leaning heavily into the original source material. They're focusing on the fact that Ravana actually mastered many arts. He possesses immense talent and deep musical prowess. He's also fervently, deeply devoted to Lord Shiva. But all of this brilliance sits tragically alongside a massive ego driven by vengeance.
He is a genius who is simply unable to control his own absolute power. What we're getting is a portrait of complex human tragedy and squandered potential, rather than just some mindless monster. Actually, this tragic arc is probably best summed up by Yash's own take on the character's motivation. He said, "When you fight a demon, you end up becoming a bigger one." Wow, right? This quote completely reframes Ravana. It transitions him from a simple bad guy into someone who fought his way to the top of a brutal world, only to become the very darkness he might have once battled against. It's a highly sophisticated cinematic critique on how absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Section 5. The actor as producer. So here's the big question. How do you ensure that this highly nuanced, deeply layered vision of a mythological icon doesn't just get watered down by studio executives? Well, you protect it behind the scenes. Yash is definitely not just some actor for hire on this multi-million-dollar project. He is actively co-producing the epic alongside Namit Malhotra, utilizing his very own banner, Monster Mind Creations. And this dual role is absolutely critical. It completely secures his deep creative investment in the character. Yash has actually talked about how his grandfather told him the Ramayana as a child, and producing the film guarantees that his specific focus on the motives of Ravana, the true why behind the actions, is actually executed on screen exactly as he envisions it. Now, you might have seen those online rumors swirling around that Yash is charging a whopping 100 crore rupees salary for this role. But listen, those numbers remain entirely unconfirmed, and honestly, focusing on the paycheck totally misses the point. The true investment here is creative. By stepping up as a producer, Yash is ensuring that the artistic shift happening in this production is fiercely protected from start to finish. Section 6. A new cinematic paradigm. Let's zoom out for a second to summarize what this sophisticated deconstruction really means for the future of mythological storytelling in Indian cinema. It takes 6 hours of runtime to explain, but crucially not to justify, a demon king. This represents the death of the binary villain. Modern cinema, and this epic in particular, is desperately seeking to understand the why behind the antagonist. Yash himself has made it clear that he isn't trying to reinvent or justify Ravana's terrible actions. Instead, he's using that massive runtime to reason out the character's psychology. It's about conveying motivation and understanding that even the darkest, most terrifying figures are driven by deeply human, albeit heavily flawed, impulses. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. Are you ready to empathize with a demon? By shifting the narrative paradigm from a simple good versus evil binary to something focused on complex human motivations, this upcoming Ramayana epic is asking us to look very closely at the blurred lines between hero and villain. It asks us to recognize the tragedy of a self-made king who lost himself to his own immense power. It's an absolutely fascinating approach to a story that is thousands of years old, and it certainly leaves me incredibly excited to see how it all unfolds on the big screen. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember, keep questioning the stories you think you already know.